You going live?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا آمنوا. Respected brothers and elders, our scholars, our mothers and our sisters, it is truly an honor and a privilege for me to be here. And subhanAllah, it's been 11 years since this program, mashallah, is happening. And this is the 11th year of Pathway to Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the path of Jannah easy for all of us, inshallah. And allow us to be amongst those who take that path and make that way of finding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in paradise, inshallah. And amongst those that are truly successful. I'm truly grateful to our brothers and sisters who are involved behind the scene in making this possible. You know, istiqamat, steadfastness is a huge blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to be able to do this year after year and be able to gather the community and bringing the ulama and the scholars together for the benefit of the entire community is truly an acceptance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah reward our brothers and sisters who are able to make this possible behind the scenes, who may not even be known in front of the camera or in front of the audience or the people, but they put in so much effort in order to make this possible. So may Allah reward each and every one of them, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is our session exclusively, not exclusively, but I guess specifically for our youth. And of course, it is something which is a mudhakara that can benefit all of us. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. That reminder is beneficial for all of us. So when I say something, brothers and sisters, my ears are most closest to me, so I should benefit the most. And my heart is the closest to me, and it should benefit. So it's for me first, and then for anyone else. Hazrat Thanvi rahmatullah alayhi, who was one of the greatest mashayikh and the great scholar of his time, used to say that whenever I wanted something to become a part of my life, meaning there was some attribute that I wanted that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would give me the ability to do, I would start preaching that. I would start telling others that. So for example, if I ever wanted to get up for tahajjud, which was very hard, and I wanted to make tahajjud salah in the middle of the night and pray to Allah and cry to Allah, and I really wanted myself to be motivated, he said I would start telling others. And I would start saying to others that, why don't you pray tahajjud? Tahajjud has these benefits. So he said that allowed me to become more punctual upon what I was saying to others. So in reality, the words that are being shared, inshallah, first and foremost are for my benefits that I can inshallah change, and for all of us inshallah. So our session, and may Allah reward the brothers and sisters who worked so hard to get this program together. So our topic this afternoon, this particular session inshallah, is save our identity as Muslims. Save our identity as Muslims. So before I continue, I want this to be a little bit more interactive. Inshallah, we'll finish in around 45 minutes or so, I think, right? 2:45, we want to have lunch and then we can prepare for Asr as well. So, and I do apologize for my delay, we should have started a little early, but I want this to be a little interactive, right? So I want all of us to be a little bit more engaged. So my first question before we come to as save our identity as Muslims, my first question to you is, what's the difference between arrogance and pride? I want some of the youngsters to tell me that. What do you think is the difference between arrogance and pride? In Arabic, they say fakhr and takabbur. They say arrogance and pride. What's the difference? Just, you cannot be wrong. You can even make a mistake. That's fine. Just share your thoughts. What do you think? Are you stretching or are you going to tell me Andrew? No. Oh, you're going to tell me the answer? Great. Perfect. I thought you were just structured. It's like the fundraiser. Like, oh. Go ahead. Bismillah.
arrogance is like, going on one way without knowing like what you're going on about. Like, you're explaining a situation and you have no idea of like what the situation is. And pride is like you are too like fulfilled in yourself. You're worried about like how like you compare to other people. It's like since you're prideful yourself, you're worth more than this other person for some reason. That's what pride. The difference, like arrogance, you don't know. Pride, you're doing it on purpose and you know what you're doing.
That's an amazing point. That's a really positive point where in arrogance you may not know and you're doing it, and in pride you may know and you're doing it, right? So that's a pretty interesting point that you brought up. What else? Who else is going to tell us? What does pride and arrogance mean, or how are they different? Because it's really important for us to define these two words before we come to our topic, saving our identity as Muslims. Because it's important, yes.
So with arrogance, you might like, have a level of like, self-esteem to a point where you're putting others down, but in pride that may not necessarily be the case. You might simply have like the dignity of being joyful with what you have and who you are.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much. So the brother mentioned that in arrogance, when you have a certain capability, when you have certain skill or anything, to the extent that where that allows you to look down at others. Where in pride, you may have that, but it doesn't allow you to look down at others, right? More or less you said? Thank you so much. That's amazing. That's a really, really good definition. One more. Anyone else? Yes. Yes. Sure. So the point is where arrogance you begin to look down at others, and in pride you're not looking down at others, right? More or less to the effect. So great points. So you guys are absolutely right. And one thing what we need to understand before we get to learning the topic of saving our identity as Muslims is that arrogance, which refers to takabbur, which refers to looking down at others when you have certain things in your life, is never accepted in our deen. It's never accepted in our religion. Irrespective of money, power, beauty, wealth, even religion and faith. You're not supposed to ever look down at any individual, but to praise Allah for what you have, right? To praise Allah for what you have. But pride in Islam refers to being able to honor and cherish what you have without looking down at anyone else. That you are proud to be a Muslim. But you cannot have arrogance while you're a Muslim. So one thing that we really need to understand before we come to the point of saving our identity as Muslims is, first and foremost, until we do not know the value of something, we will never be able to truly cherish and take care of that thing. Let me give you an example. A person has a couple of pair of watches. And there's one watch that is more expensive or more beloved to an individual. A person has maybe a car or two, and one values more than the other. The thing that a person values more than the other will always be taken care of more. Why? Because they know the worth of that. When you know the worth of something, you always take care of it. You don't want to lose it, you don't want it to be gone or anything like that. In same capacity, unless we don't value our deen and our religion to the point that where Islam becomes a sense of pride for me, right? You know, you must go around in many places, and Connecticut, Boston is the place of so many colleges and universities. There's a sense of pride when you get to a certain college, right? There's a logo called, proud this or pride of this and this and that. Like I live in an area where the slogan of our school district is pride or something like that. It's a part of it. where someone feels honored and cherished to be included in a system where you're doing, a particular thing. Same way, brothers and sisters, the first and the foremost thing that needs to be understood is that we need to value the religion and deen that Allah has given us. Till we do not value Islam in our lives, we will never be able to showcase this as something that is pride, full of pride. Let me give you another example. When something is of value, or you feel it's worth value, you always hold it very close to you. When something is not valuable, you try to dissociate yourself or disconnect yourself to this. Let me give you an example from the Quran. So imagine someone who has a really nice car, and you're standing with your friends and you go outside. So what do you say to your friends? This is my car. This, which is ishara qareeb. This is my car. If someone has an old car, doesn't run well, broken down, you park it like the faraway corner of the masjid, right? And when you say, that is my car. That is my car. So when you have something that you cherish, you bring it very close to you. This. When something is not beloved to you, you say that. This is a concept that we usually have. So for example, if someone has a really nice, beautiful house and mentions it, this is my house. And if someone has like a shed, it's like, oh, that's my house. Right? So that's the nature of human being, insan. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talks about the work of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah says, قُلْ Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي. This is my way that I invite the people towards Allah. Meaning, He's taking the direct ownership of something being so close to Him. So when you love something, or something holds a value in your eyes, it will always remain very close to you. So the first thing, brothers and sisters, in order to save our identity as Muslims, we must know the worth of what Islam is. Forgive me for saying this, today as a Muslim, I don't even know my own worth. Today I don't know my own value. The Prophet ﷺ said, if there was not a person on the face of this earth who did not say Allah, Allah, the sun wouldn't rise. The moon wouldn't change its phases. The atmosphere would not remain. The oceans would not stop at its places. The mountains would not remain as pegs, and earth would not spread as it is. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would finish the face of this earth when there's no one to say the name of Allah. That's how valuable every one of us are. That's the worth and the value of Islam. Imagine filling a book. Imagine you have a 1 subject or a 5 subject notebook, and you fill everything with zeros. It has no value. Those zeros have no value. But if you put that 1 in front of that 0, all those zeros increase the value of that 1 that present here. That 1 changes the entire amount itself. From 0, it becomes millions and billions and trillions because of that presence of that 1. And that is your deen and your Islam that truly brings value. So the first and foremost thing, even before we move forward in our topic, is all of us, brothers and sisters, need to understand the value of Islam in our own hearts and our lives. Till I don't respect my deen and religion, no one else will respect Islam and deen. Unless I don't have pride in my deen, where you walk with not arrogance. That's why I started with the difference between arrogance and pride. Unless me and you don't start walking on those streets with pride that I'm a Muslim and I'm proud of being a Muslim, no one else will respect my religion or your religion and our religion in general. Because it all starts from us individually. That we need to know the value of our own deen and our own religion. And that's what, subhanAllah, Islam created. Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu is a great name in Islam. Most of us have heard his name in most all khutbahs, in jummahs, in lectures and talks, and usually in most talks the word of Umar radiallahu anhu in his life is usually mentioned. Umar radiallahu anhu was a person that prior to accepting Islam, he was a person who used to graze the camel for his family. And his aunt and his uncle said, Umar, your habits and your characteristics are like such that, may Allah forgive, they say you will become worthless, you will do nothing in life. These are the words of Umar radiallahu anhu himself telling when he grew up, what Allah gave him. He said, I was told by my own relatives, my aunts and uncles for whom I used to graze their camels, he said, they said you will do nothing in life. There will be nothing valuable for you in life. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Umar radiallahu anhu Islam. Allah changed his heart towards Islam. And Allah can change anyone's heart towards goodness, right? And their hearts can flip and move at any time. So Umar radiallahu anhu said that Allah gave me Islam, Allah gave me deen, Allah gave me religion. To the extent that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I saw a dream. And this hadith has been mentioned in Mishkat al-Masabi in the chapter of the Manaqib and the virtues of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I saw a dream. And the dreams of the prophets are true. So the Prophet ﷺ said, I saw a dream where I was sitting next to a well. And I pulled the water out of the well. And I put enough water that quenched the thirst of the people around me. And then I sat to the side. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came. And he took the water and he pulled the water out of the well. And he pulled so much that all the people drank. And then he sat to the side. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, in my dream, I saw that Umar came, radiallahu anhu, Umar bin Khattab. And once he came, he took off the small bucket, he put it to the side, he took a larger bucket, and he attached it with a rope, and he pulled so much water out that not only that everyone was quenched, but there was so much enough and sufficient water left over what Umar radiallahu anhu had pulled. So the Sahaba, the companions said of Prophet ﷺ, what is the ta'bir? What is the interpretation? What do you think is the reason of this dream? And the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use Umar in such a way that Islam will spread such far distances that the quenching of the thirst of Iman of the people will be fulfilled. That Islam will spread far distances from Mecca and Medina. And what we know is that in the 10 years and 6 months of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, Islam spread to almost 2.2 square million miles and 22 provinces of Islam. Bayt al-Muqaddas, Palestine, became open at the time of Umar bin Khattab. For 86 years, there was no adhan and no sajda in the entire area of Al-Aqsa and Quds till Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu stepped inside. Islam went all the way towards Egypt, where young women used to be thrown inside the river Nile for the traditions of the pagans. And Umar radiallahu anhu wrote a letter towards Nile and the area itself, and 22 provinces of Islam had spread. So when Islam spread so far, Umar radiallahu anhu one day came to the masjid. And the reason why I'm telling you this, brothers and sisters, is that till we don't respect our deen and our religion, no one else will do. I'm not saying be arrogant, but there has to be a sense of pride that I'm a Muslim. No one takes that away from me. No one takes my name away from me. No one takes my identity away from me. No one takes my religious garb away from me. And from my mothers and sisters, no one takes my hijab away from me. That's my identity. That's my pride that we all need to develop in our hearts. So Umar radiallahu anhu one day, within the time of his khilafah and his governorship, he gathered all the people of Medina. And he called all of them to the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he sat upon the pulpit. And a story of a pulpit remembered. So in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, initially there was no pulpit. There was no minbar. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to lean against a tree which was right next to the place where he used to make the salah. There was a tree that Rasulullah used to lean against and would speak to the Sahaba. He would lean against. But when the crowd and the Sahaba increased and the masjid expanded, there was a lady said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu, I would like to make a member for you, where you could sit down and you can convey the message so that people can hear and see you properly. And so Rasulullah sallallahu decided upon removing the tree and putting a member. This is from the authentic books of Sirah. When the tree was about to be cut, it is mentioned in the hadith that there was a sound of crying from the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu. So the Sahaba say, Ya Rasulullah, we're hearing the sounds of crying, someone weeping. So Rasulullah sallallahu said, it is the tree that weeps from the separation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet ﷺ placed his hand and he said, would you not be satisfied if you are made as a tree of Jannah? If Allah gives us tawfiq, may Allah give us tawfiq to visit Mecca and Medina and Haramain again and again with khair and afiyah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever allows us to be in Medina, and may Allah make that easy and possible. If you ever get to Riyadul Jannah, where the mihrab of Rasulullah ﷺ is to make the salah, on the right side you're going to see a pillar. On that pillar you're going to see an oval shape green sign with golden writing, which says Istiwana. Istiwana means a pillar. There are 9 of them that you can see. Istiwana Aisha, Istiwana Toba, and different pillars of like prisoners, and there are like 9 of them around the area. That pillar itself says the pillar of the weeping tree, Hanan, which means the pillar of the weeping tree. It's still till today engraved in that pillar as a place where Rasulullah ﷺ used to give the khutbah. And this was the story behind that. So the minbar had 3 steps. I went from story to story, forgive me. And we're still talking about Umar radiallahu anhu, right? And we're still talking about our identity and our deen. So there are 3 steps to the minbar of Rasulullah ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ sat on the top. When the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu came, he said, I'm not worthy enough to sit where the Nabi of Allah sat. So he sat on the 2nd step. So when Umar radiallahu anhu came, he said, I'm not worthy of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu's place, so he sat on the ground, meaning the 1st step. When the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu came, Uthman radiallahu anhu sat on the top. And for many fitteen, there are always people who would create disunity amongst the ummah. And may Allah protect us and safeguard us and our communities from people that take away the muhabba and the unity of the community and the ummah at large. Because the help of Allah is with the connection and the unity of our hearts. When the hearts are united, the help and the nusrah of Allah is upon those individuals. So there will always remain individuals to create and instigate issues. So the people came and said, Uthman radiallahu anhu, came and he sat on the top. He considers himself to be more worthy than everyone else. And they made so much accusations and so many other things, and there's a whole story about that. So Uthman radiallahu anhu very beautifully said, if I didn't sit on the top, the khatib and the imams to come to the day of Qiyamah would be sitting 10 stories down in the ground, where the public would be sitting on the top. Because everyone would say, I'm not worthy of the last, I'm not worthy of the last, right? So subhanAllah. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he sat on the minbar, the last step. He gathered the people of Medina. And he said, oh people, I was disgraced. Allah honored me. He said, I was nothing. And then he said, I used to graze the camels of my parents, my uncles and aunts. And people would say, Umar will do nothing in life. He will accomplish nothing in life. And then Umar radiallahu anhu said the golden words that I want to share with all of our young ones, and for all of us. And he said, أعزنا الله بالإسلام. It is Islam that gave us honor. It is Islam that gave us dignity. It is Islam that gave us everything that we have. Meaning these are the words of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. A man who governs 2.2 square million miles and 22 provinces, and all the way towards Baytul Muqaddas, towards Egypt, and far distances Islam has spread. And his words are that it is Islam that gave us value and gave us honor. Let's step back, brothers and sisters. Our topic is saving our identities as Muslims. The first thing that needs to happen, the first thing that we need to happen occur is we all need to create a sense of pride that Allah has given me Islam. Again, going back to my words, not arrogance, not looking down at others, not considering others to be worse or anything than me, be it dunya and deen and religion, anything. But from within my own heart, I need to feel honored that, oh Allah, I'm truly blessed. And it's the sense of pride for me that Allah, you have given me the religion of Islam. That's number one thing. Number two, and when we move forward, is how do we save the identity itself? Brothers and sisters, when something is of value to you, it's very hard to disconnect that individual with that thing, because it holds value to you. So when Islam and Deen will hold value, we will have a sense of pride, and it will not be possible to anyone to take that away. We will protect it. There's a kitab, there's a book called Hayatul Haywan, the stories or the lives of animals. Ulama, mashallah, are present, and people who have learned are present. So within the stories and the libraries and the encyclopedia of Islam, there is a book called Hayatul Haywan, the stories and the lives of animals. Just like insan and human beings, animals are creation of Allah, and they have stories themselves as well. They are reasons of animals, right? Allah mentions Surah An-Nahl, the story based upon a honeybee, as a chapter in the Quran. Look at the importance of that, right? That's how valuable our deen is. An entire chapter of the Quran is based upon an animal known as a honeybee, right? The importance of it. So the lives of animals also hold extreme values. There is a book in the Encyclopedia of Islam called Hayatul Haywan. One of Fazul Rahman Sahib Azmi, one of the greatest scholars in South Africa, the Shaykh al-Hadith of the Madrasa Azad, well, I think, Mohammad Sahab's Ustad as well, I think, as well. So amongst one of the greatest scholars in Islam, who's been teaching Bukhari for years, someone had quoted that he had mentioned this, and he said that musk is a product which is full of fragrance. Does anyone know where musk comes from, young ones? My youth who are present here for our youth session, does anyone know where musk comes from? What is musk? First, tell me, what is musk?
Fragrance that was used by the Prophet.
Sure. Correct. Correct. So it's a type of a fragrance that is used by individuals, might have been present at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, used by the righteous as well, right? Okay, good. So, does anyone know where this fragrance comes from?
Deer.
Musk? Where does the musk come from? Yes.
Deer.
Animal.
Deer, yes. So musk itself is a particular type of fragrance that is extracted and taken out from only a particular breed of deers from the navel, the belly button area. The navel part of a deer is the one that has it. And not every deer has it. It's a specific breed in a very specific place, and those that have it are not very common. So only very specific deers have something called musk. In the kitab Hayatul Haywan, the author writes, and subhanAllah, ajib, the author writes and says that the deer that has musk in its belly never goes to sleep with its eyes closed. Like a horse that never sits down and sleeps. You've never seen a horse sit down and sleep, right? Horse doesn't sit down and sleep, they stand up and sleep. So, if you're talking about an animal, meaning a deer that has a musk stored in its belly, never goes to sleep with its eyes closed. And a deer that doesn't have will close its eye and sleep. What's the reason? And the reason is that that deer knows the value of what it has. That deer knows the value of what it has. Because if that deer closes his eyes and sleep, it's more likely that they will be taken into, someone will capture it and take the musk away. Because they're hunting them for the musk itself. And the only reason is because that animal knows its worth and it knows its value. Brothers and sisters, the value of our deen is much more important and more valuable than the musk. But forgive me for saying this, but today we are all sleeping. Our deen, our Islam, and our identities are being robbed and we don't even care. Today our deen, our religion, and our identities are being stripped away from us. And we're not even caring about it. And the reason is, I don't know the value and the worth of my own deen and religion. I don't know how valuable deen and Islam is. Because for the companions, the whole world put to one side, but the value of the deen was much greater than that. In the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, and I'll try to conclude this as soon as I can. In the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, and as I said that when Rasulullah ﷺ passed away, it was almost around the 11th year of the Hijrah and migration. Rasulullah ﷺ passed away in the month of Rabiul Awwal, 2 months and few days after his Hajj. After Rasulullah ﷺ passed away, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu became the successor or the person in command. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu remained in command for 2 years, 3 months, and 10 days. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu stayed in command for 2 years, 3 months, and 10 days. Rasulullah ﷺ passed away at the age of 63. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was 61 years old. They were 2 years apart. They were best friends. They were the closest buddies. When Rasulullah ﷺ passed away, he was 61. When Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu passed away, he was also 63. Because he was the Khalifa for 2 years, 3 months, and 10 days. He passes away. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu comes. When Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was selected, he remained for 10 years and 6 months. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu passed away, Umar radiallahu anhu came. Now he's selected and he remains for 10 years and 6 months. And during the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, and we're going back to the point itself, is the importance of that identity that we need to instill. And that was one of the greatest things that he implemented in the minds and the hearts of the Sahaba. That the most valuable thing that we have is Islam and Deen. And as I mentioned, that Islam began to spread far distances. In the 19th year of Hijrah, which means around 8 years after the demise of Rasulullah ﷺ. In the books of Sirah, in the Kitab Hayat al-Sahaba by Shaykh Yusuf Kanduri rahmatullah alayhi, it was the 19th year after the Hijrah. Rasulullah ﷺ passed away 11 Hijri. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu remained till 13 and a half. And then after 13 and a half to 23, it was Umar radiallahu anhu. Which means from 13 to 19, it was around 6 years had passed. Halfway through the Khilafah of Umar radiallahu anhu, an army, a group of campaign of individuals were sent to the northern parts of the area of Syria, amongst the area of the Christian kings. An envoy, a campaign was sent. The man in charge of this campaign was none other than a young man known as Abdullah bin Hudhafa radiallahu anhu. Abdullah bin Hudhafa. And this campaign was sent in the 19th year. The campaign traveled and traveled and traveled, spreading Islam and Deen and religion. And they reached the Christian king. And what ended up happening was, they all got captured. they were all taken as prisoners. And this is from the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. When this group of Muslims are captured, they are brought in front of the king. And the king said, who amongst them, this group of people, it's the closest to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Meaning, even though he has passed now, but who is the closest in relationship? So they pointed towards Abdullah bin Hudhafa, that he's the leader and he's the closest. So the king called Abdullah bin Hudhafa. He's a young man. He's a young man. So the king calls Abdullah bin Hudhafa, and you can read the books of Tariq and history, and I wish that we were able to read a little bit more about our deen and our religion. And I request all of you to please take out some time and read the seerah and the lives of the Sahaba in your lives. I needed the first myself. I need to go back to my phone and see my usage time, where it says, what is it? Screen time, right? That's what it says, screen time? I need to start checking that a lot more. Because if we begin to see how much time we are spending in reading about the seerah and the Sahaba, please read what Allah has given us of our Quran, our seerah, and the life of Sahaba. We don't read enough about our deen and our religion. We need to take our time. It's important. 19th year of Hijrah, in the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, Abdullah bin Hudhafa and his army is caught. The king is standing in the top. He said, who's the closest? He said, Umar bin Khattab. He said, Abdullah bin Hudhafa is the closest. The king calls him. And he says, I have a deal for you. He said, if you let go of the religion of Islam and the belief in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I'll give you half of my kingdom. I'll give you half of my kingdom. He smiled and he said, even if you were to give me your entire kingdom, I won't take that offer. He said, I'll offer you my daughter in marriage, and I'll provide you with such and such wealth, and all of it. But let go of Islam. Don't be a Muslim anymore. He smiled, and he says, not even a blink of an eye, I will leave Islam indeed. When he couldn't motivate him with the things of the world, he intimidated him by scaring him. So he brought in a huge pot of boiling oil, and he said, throw his closest friend inside. And they threw his friend inside. And within seconds he was gone, finished in front of his own eyes. And he says, if you don't believe me and trust me, I'll throw you in here too. He says, I'm not going to let go of my iman and my deen. So the king gave up. He says, it's not going to happen. It's not a chance. So he walked away and he said, throw all of them inside and start with him. So when the king walked away, and it was the time of Abdullah bin Hudhafa to be thrown inside, Abdullah bin Hudhafa began to cry. And he cried so much. The king was notified that this man is crying. It feels like he has given up, his heart is softened, and I think he will bend now. So the king came back, and he called Abdullah bin Hudhafa. And he says, I knew you were going to become weak and soft when the real time comes. He said, I know you were crying, you want to let go? I still have that same offer for you. So Abdullah bin Hudhafa says, this is not the reason why I'm crying. He says, the reason why I'm crying is that I'm thinking in my heart that, oh Allah, when the time came to sacrifice something for you, I only have one life. And I'm thrown inside, and within seconds I will be finished and I will be gone. And I'm just crying that, oh Allah, I wish I had lives as much as the hair on my body. And one after the other I would have sacrificed for the name of Allah and His Rasul and for Islam. He said, that's why I'm crying. I'm saying, oh Allah, I have only one life. And you asked for sacrifice and I can only give you one. I wish I had more and I would have given you one after the other. And the king was so impressed. And this is a side note, this is not a part of the hadith, this is my commentary on it. Forgive me, astaghfirullah. Not commentary, but my thought on it. There's one word in English that you guys use, young kids. YOLO. What does that mean? YOLO. What does that mean? You only live once. You only got one life to live, right? You know what I say? You only got one life to give. Change your mindset. It's not about you only got one life to live. Now you only don't live once. You only got one life to give. It only means how you'll give that to Allah. So Abdullah bin Huzafa said, I wish I had as many lives as the hair on my body, and one after the other I would give it for the sake of Allah. The king was so moved. And he said, you have shook me. He said, do me a favor. I don't want to be disgraced in front of my people, but if you can honor by kissing my forehead, like an honor of the king, I will let you and all of your companions go without being hurt. So Abdullah bin Huzafa said, I was shocked, and I said, if it was only me, I would have never done that. But it was the lives of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ that matter so much. So he said, I took the bitter pill and I kissed the forehead of the king to honor him, and he let everyone go. And we reached Medina. And the news spread to Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu, that this is what Abdullah bin Huzafa had done. That he had sacrificed, put his own life, and not given up Islam, and not given up for the whole kingdom and all the wealth. So Abdullah bin Huzafa radiallahu anhu, when he came, Umar radiallahu anhu embraced him, he hugged him. And he said, sit on the mimbar of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He made Abdullah bin Huzafa sit on the mimbar of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he called all the men of the city of Medina to come and honor by kissing the forehead of Abdullah bin Huzafa, for he had done for the deen of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, we can only save our identity when we know our own value. When we don't know the value of Islam, we can never protect the identity of Islam. All of us have to go back, myself first and foremost, knowing that the value of my deen and my religion is more valuable and worthy than anything in this world. And I say this all the time, and I repeat myself, and I want to say this again and again till this become a part of my life, and I hope that young people will remember this and put this somewhere deep in your heart, that there is never anything in this world that is worth having if you need to lose Allah and Islam. There is never anything in this world that is ever worth having, irrespective of power and wealth and money and men and whatever it is, women. Never worth it. If exchange you need to lose Allah and Islam. Never worth it. Never worth it. So the first thing that I need to do and all of us need to do is that we need to value our deen and our religion. Till I don't respect my deen and my religion, no one else will. Number two, brothers and sisters, we need to live our lives in Islam, on Islam, with pride. Don't let anyone take away your identity. The way you look, the way you dress, the way you are. Your name, your kufi, your hijab, your abaya is your honor, your dignity, your respect in this world and on the day of Qiyamah. You're keeping up the honor of what Allah and His Rasul ﷺ has given us through Islam. As Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu said, that even if our generations had worked for dunya, we would have never received what Allah gave us because of deen. What Islam will provide us, nothing else can ever give us. Nothing can ever provide us for what Islam will provide for us. Yes, there might be few individuals and few people across the globe through their actions, Islam may be, blamed for anything wrong, but we truly know that this is not the Islam. The Islam what Allah and His Rasul ﷺ gave us was an Islam that changed the lives of millions and billions of people across the globe. While just looking at the life of Sahaba, their lives would change. So my dear respected brothers and elders, and especially my youth, I want to conclude with this, as we'll have half hour before Asr Salah for lunch as well, is that it is important for all of us to know the worth of our deen. And your deen and your Islam is priceless. You know, when I was a little kid, there used to be this commercial, I'm not sure if it still comes, I don't see this stuff anymore, but there used to be this commercial for MasterCard. It says for everything else there's a MasterCard. You know, something money can't buy. For everything else there's a MasterCard. I don't know if this still exists or not. For, you know, something money can't buy, for everything else out, right? They always used to say that. And subhanAllah, for something that money can't buy, and that is your deen and your religion. Your identity and your faith. It's priceless. Your deen, your Islam, and our deen and our Islam and our identity is something that Allah has given us. And I hope and I wish that our young people that are sitting here will keep this as a major step of their identity. I get to speak to a lot of young people from different faith as well. And forgive me for saying this, I'm not complaining, and I know that we shouldn't be complaining as an ummah. But within our Muslim youth, when we ask, who are you? Islam may be the second or the third answer, if that's a lucky one, like if that happens. Usually it's the third or the fourth thing. Who are you? I'm so-so ethnicity. Or I'm so-and-so. And finally, Islam is. Even in our young people, I'm surprised. Who are you? I'm a Pakistani, I'm a Bangladeshi, I'm an Egyptian, I'm a Bangladeshi, you know, all that. Like, this is great. I love culture. It's so beautiful. But our identity is Islam. We respect our cultures, but our identity is Islam. And I've seen this in other groups, and I'm not going to name it. But you go to certain groups and certain religions and you ask them who you are, that's their first answer. That's their identity. Irrespective of where they come from, and where they live, and what social, economical culture they are. Their identities, I'm a Muslim. And this is what I need to really instill with pride, brothers and sisters. That we all need to love our deen and religion in order for someone else to love our deen. Know the value of Islam and religion, and live by the values of Islam and religion. Not only words. I can't say, I love Islam, but I'm going to do what I feel like doing. That doesn't work like that, right? So the third thing is to live our life by Islam. To love Islam. And to value our religion and our identity. And to live by our identity. And to live by the faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and ability to live our life according to the Quran and the beautiful sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Allow us to live our life as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be pleased with us. And allow us to live as Muslims and to leave as Muslims and to be raised on the day of Qiyamah amongst the believers in the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on the day of Qiyamah. Jazakumullah khairan. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.